All right, I'm letting people in. All right, I'm letting people in. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. We will start in a few minutes. I am letting people in. So thank you and welcome to January's Drupal for Gov webinar. Our topic is using prompt engineering to develop strong, discoverable content. And our speakers today will be Katherine Watier Ong and Jason Luttrell. Katherine, did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did. It's like you know me from a past life. Very good.
I think I do know you from
You do.
Before I hand over the reins, I always do some housekeeping related to Drupal for Gov. Most of you all are familiar with the work that we do, but for those who aren't, we are a community of open source advocates, and we love all things open source. In addition to this webinar that we hold every third Thursday at 3 p.m., our most popular event is DrupalCon, which we will be holding this year, August 13th through the 15th. We also do a global training day, a half training day throughout the year. And we participate and help organize Gov Summit at DrupalCon North America. If you are interested in being a speaker, you have space to hold a half-day training, please reach out to us. We are available via email, Slack, and LinkedIn. I always have to give a shout out to our sponsors. We can't do this work without them. So thank you for GovWebWorks. They build innovative digital solutions. And in addition to this event that we hold, there are also other events that are being held throughout the states. And yesterday was a special day. There was a Drupal CMS launch that was awesome, and hopefully that brings more people to our community. In addition to that, there are also other events that are being held in Florida. DrupalCon is happening March 24th through the 27th. Stanford Web Camp is happening in May 8th. We have MidCamp, and we also have Drupal Camp Asheville, which happens July 11th. If you are interested in hosting a half-day or a multi-day event, we're always looking for space. So if you have the space, please reach out to us and email us at info@drupalforgov.us. And actually, all webinars are stored in YouTube, and we are live streaming actively right now. And so if you want to visit and look at a past presentation, please check out YouTube at Drupal for Gov NP. And last but definitely not least, I am happy to introduce our speakers for this month, Katherine and Jason. Welcome. I am going to stop sharing my screen. And you should be able to take over. Also, if anybody else has any questions, please leave them in the chat and I will be moderating. Thank you.
All right. Get the right slides up in front. Everybody can see the slides? Not yes. All right. So we're going to be talking today about using prompt engineering to develop strong content. I'm also going to be walking through some of Drupal's AI features. You're going to hear both prompts for me as well as custom GPTs that you can use. And then I'm not going to be walking through all the AI features. There's a lot. I'm just going to be focused on the ones that are oriented toward search discoverability, and particularly ones I recommend and ones I don't recommend. So this is me. I've worked on a bunch of Drupal sites. I helped build the strategy around HealthIT.gov back in the day. So I've also worked with Cancer.gov and the Fisheries division of NOAA. I've been doing search for 20 odd years, and I've been running my own business for 9. And before I ran my own business, I built out the online marketing and analytics team at Ketchum. So I've worked with a bunch of big brands, some of which are on Drupal. And I want to give a shout out to Jason, critical for this presentation. He actually helped set up a staging site for me with some of these modules because I am a marketer, not a developer. So thank you, Jason.
No problem.
All right. So I don't know where people are with their understanding of what LLMs are. And I'm going to throw out a lot of acronyms, which y'all work in government. You should be actually pretty comfortable with acronyms, but I want to explain what they are in case I don't want to lose anybody. So we're going to start with natural language processing, or NLP. So that actually is used by Google along with a bunch of other systems, and it allows them to understand the meaning of both queries and sentences. It also allows them to understand entities, which are nouns, verbs, or objects in the sentence. And so in general, it makes it so they can understand the sentence more accurately. Google's been using it since 2017. It can also spot sentiment. There are free tools for you to play with all of Google's NLP stuff as well. And it's used in Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, Translate, Gmail, Search, particularly in the MUM and BERT large language models that are using the algorithm. Large language models. So large language models, as you probably know, were trained off the internet. They scraped everybody's content, I would note illegally. But anyway, they scraped everybody's content and they were trained off the internet. And all they do is basically Mad Libs. They are good at predicting the next word in a sentence. They don't understand strategy. They can't reason on their own. What they do is you input some text and the model's able to create a probability distribution and create the probable next set of words. And through that, come up with a very confident sounding, human sounding response. They're not reasoning. So if I'm thinking about what I could use an LLM for, I just mentioned a few times, no strategy, no reasoning, and they're pretty horrible at math. So there's a couple of things you definitely do not want to use an LLM for. RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. So this is just the ability for an LLM to search a live internet index to come up with an answer. So Google is using this, Bing is using this with their AI, and then ChatGPT, OpenAI actually uses the Bing index along with some other things to search and come up with fresh answers. You can do this on your own too. Google has this really cool tool called Notebook LM, still free for everybody. There's a paid level, and I'm not sure what you actually get with the paid model because I enjoy the free. But with that, you can actually attach it to your own knowledge base. So I've attached it to my Google Drive, which has all of my slides and blog posts and presentations. And then I can ask it to create LinkedIn posts and FAQs and that kind of thing from my knowledge set. So feel free to play around with RAG, Notebook LM if you want to see what that kind of power is. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a couple AI chat caveats because near the end of the presentation, I'm going to encourage you to use AI chat inside Drupal, but I want you to know that there are some limitations. So the first thing is, it's trained on your level of intelligence. So I have a master's degree and it's going to crank out master's degree level content. Most of the American public does not have a master's degree. So I recommend almost everybody that I train, because everybody that I train has got a bachelor's or more usually, to lower the reading level, I guess would be a nice way of saying it. And actually LLMs are great at lowering the reading level. But you have to actually add that into the prompt. This should be at a 6th grade reading level. Otherwise, you're going to get stuff that's not going to be readable by the average American. It's also trained on the internet. Originally, it was trained on a lot of Wikipedia, which means it's horribly biased because Wikipedia is filled with younger men in their basement, honestly. I was on a Wikipedia panel at Ketchum, so I've met some Wikipedians. They're nice people, but horribly biased. So it can generate biased responses. Just keep that in mind. Hallucinations, making crap up. That's me without swearing. I caught it this time. But anyway, they do it a lot, unfortunately. About almost up to 30% of the time. I think that's an old number. So you really need to treat LLM chat like it's the brand new to you college intern that's overly excited about helping you, but has no background in how to function in the workplace. And so you give them very prescriptive, clear, written down instructions, and then you absolutely review the output, because if you don't, they're going to go off the rails and make up stuff. Okay. So that's exactly what AI chat is. Do not generate any content and just put it on the internet and hope it works. You've got to make sure you actually read what's been kicked out from the LLM. And if you are suspicious that they've made up stuff, which happens all the time, you would prompt them. You can actually say, do you understand my prompt after you give them a prompt? You can also say, hey, where did you get that from? Provide me the reference. If they keep lying, you can also hit the downgrade button, right? It's a lower thumbs button. And you can also prompt them, say, if you don't know, just say you don't know, versus making stuff up. I was using Notebook LM, in fact, to create a bunch of LinkedIn posts. And part of my prompt was that I, as a business, am focused on science-oriented large organizations. And I said, give me a URL from the database I just gave you for each of these prompts. They put science communication in every single URL, which is not on my website, making stuff up. So drifting. This is a little bit less of an issue because they've been working on it, but it's still potentially one that I want you to be aware of. This means if you give them a longer prompt, the LLM might get fully lost. They forget what the first part of the prompt is. And it's because they use these things called tokens. Token is usually like a piece of text, could be a character, could be a word. They have a token window. GPT-4 at the moment has a bigger window that it had when it launched, to 4,000 tokens or so. Gemini can handle way more. In case you get stuck, you could always pivot to Gemini and see if they get the longer prompt. If you're still getting stuck, you can either label your prompt with numbers in different increments and then reference those pieces. Or there's this Chrome plugin. You will get the slides with all these links, I promise. But this Chrome plugin, you put the entire long prompt in and it automatically splits it apart for you with numbers. Don't share proprietary information. Be careful of copyright. When you're using AI image generation, like this mouse is actually still protected by copyright. The original Disney mouse is no longer, because it's been out there for more than 100 years. But basically, you're stealing an artist's livelihood. So just be careful. And then the last part is that if you're using AI images, just think strategically about how you're using them, because you can never own them. The Copyright Office here in the US has determined that you cannot receive copyright on AI images. Interestingly, other countries have made different decisions, but that's what's going on here in the US. Okay, proprietary and personally identifiable information. I've given you a bunch of questions that you should read through as you're thinking about putting data into an LLM, because you're just never sure whether or not that information is going to be used in a training set. And I honestly don't trust when they say that this is a private conversation and it's not going to be used for training. Why should we trust them? They stole our stuff originally. I mean, honestly. So just be careful about sharing proprietary information. If it's already public on the internet, fine. But if it's proprietary, be careful. So this is a format of a perfect prompt. This is actually stolen from a Microsoft document about how to do prompting. So if you want to look up the full document, but a prompt has a certain amount of ingredients to work well. The big thing is context. So in a marketing realm, I want to tell the LLM what kind of business I am, what kind of person I'm targeting, what the goal is of the content, like what do I want that person to do when they read the content, and then how do I want the content to sound? And you can put brand voice and tone. You can even ask for formatting. So I want it to come out in a table or with bullets, all of that kind of stuff. So the more context you give the LLM, the better the prompt will be. A couple other things, be very specific as much as you can, include all those pieces I just talked about, the context. If you were using a particular piece of text that you want them to use as a reference, put it in some sort of bracket that will help the LLM understand what you're doing. And if the output is really poor, you can actually just turn it around and ask the LLM to interview you to come up with the perfect prompt. This is very bizarre, but bribing works, which is crazy. So if you're getting bad outputs and then you just add in, hey, I'm going to give you $500, the LLM will actually generate a better response for you. Okay, I also have this blog post, which is all about employee policies. If this is new to you, and there isn't currently an employee policy at your organization about using AI chat, I highly recommend that you take a look at my draft. I am not a lawyer, but I just wanted to outline something so that you guys could use it with your legal department and come up with something that covers all employees. Because this is one of those moments where I just worry about somebody taking some business information that's proprietary and sticking it into AI chat, right? So a lot of the things I just sort of talked about are going to be in an employee document. Feel free to grab that blog post and use it for that purpose. And please review everything because it's a Mad Libs computer creating stuff for you. It's not something that reasons. So make sure you review the logic, definitely the references, and the output. Okay, now I'm going to pivot to how you create search-focused content today in 2025. Things have changed a lot probably since if you've ever heard me speak, things have changed a lot. Especially the last year has been a pretty fast-paced for SEO, and I've been in the business for 20 years, so it's very fast. So this is the new process for 2025. The first one, you have to know who you're talking to because everything is personalized to the end user. All social, all search, personalized to the end user, even ChatGPT, personalized, right? So define your personas per language, per country. Start brainstorming, ideally with your audience. That's the most insightful piece of information, is to talk to them directly. But otherwise, I'm going to give you prompts for how to use AI for that because AI has been trained on the entire dang internet. So they actually do have some insights there. Then you want to limit the list of your terms that you want to appear for based on competition, looking in Google, seeing if Google is showing organizations like you and your type of answer. That's the search intent bit. Whether or not it fits your business, whether or not you have ability to rank. If you need to see different countries or languages, there's a link to a Chrome plugin that will let you do that. And then if you notice AI overviews are being triggered, keep note, because there's a separate process to rank in AI overviews and a separate ranking tool. Then you're going to group the keywords together because you don't need to write one page per keyword anymore. They understand how things are related semantically. So oftentimes 20 or so keywords can actually land on one page. So you're going to cluster your keywords, not just off the cuff. I'm going to give you tools for this one. And then you map your keyword group with the page that you're either going to write or edit, right? Then you're going to create a writing plan for each topic you want to rank on. Again, I have a tool here for this. And then you're going to either edit or write straight up content, and you can use AI for bits and pieces here. And then you're going to make sure you have a text chunk for passage indexing and ranking, which I'm going to talk about. That's the part AI overviews uses, as does LLM search. And then you're going to make sure that that passage has very high cosine similarity to the text embeddings of the topic. I know I just talked over everybody's head. So what happens is that we've discovered, the industry in general, SEO, that Google and the other search engines are using this thing called cosine similarity. So what they do is they turn text or text chunks into math. It's called text embeddings. They flip it to a bunch of numbers. And then they plot those numbers in a three-dimensional space, like I'm literally like this. And the distance between the numbers is how similar they are. So closer, more similar, far away, not as similar. So there's math underneath it is really the output here. And so I have some tools that you can use to determine whether or not your math works and whether you're close enough to the subject so you'll rank more likely, right? Okay, so let's talk about all of those pieces. The first one, how to use AI to develop your audience personas. You are going to see prompts. I'm not going to read them. You're going to have to go grab the deck later because it's going to be boring for me to read a prompt. But why do we need to do this? I just mentioned that everything's personalized, unfortunately. Search is personalized to you. Your social profile is personalized to you. So you actually have to know who you're talking to. So here's a prompt to try. These are actually two. One is the first one. It's got 3 different pieces to it. And the second one is a different one to try out with. Here's another prompt thread that's got 4 different pieces to it. You also need to understand the searcher's journey because Google uses it. Google understands when you search for a piece of information, how your savviness changes over time. And they know when you're looking for something and learning about something, what makes sense to learn first, second, and third, your searcher's journey. Yeah. So you as a website owner should fulfill the needs of the searcher's journey. Why? Because there was this big Google algorithm leak last year. And we've discovered all of these factors of the Google algorithm. One being they use the Chrome browser to watch all of us when we search. So when we go from search and we click on something and we stay on a website, and then what we do on the website and whether or not we stay and hang out, that's all positive. If we go from search and we click on a website and we immediately bail and go back to search, they watch all of that, and that's negative. Yeah. So searcher's journey, super important. Also, if we ever get to that stage, like it was in beta, where it was like one prompt and then you can ask an additional follow-up question, you will be well optimized for both the first prompt and the second one. So that's the other reason. So here is a prompt that I use to come up with what the searcher's journey might be using AI. Here's the output. So you can see what would happen as you understand the basics, and then you actually get into the process of submitting a journal article. I work with a lot of academic journals. That's why you're finding these kind of prompts. Okay, so then you can also use AI for figuring out what type of terms people are using. This is where I give you the caveat that I just told you LLMs are bad at math. They also have no access to a keyword research database. So they don't know what keyword phrase might have volume or not. So don't ever use the output straight away. You want to put it into a keyword research tool and verify that it has some volume. So here's a prompt for using AI to brainstorm a topic and then later validate with tools. Here's another prompt that you could use. You notice how I'm telling about what kind of website it is and what the personas are. And this one in particular, I'm loading stuff from Google into the prompt, which is important. If you're actually just loading URLs, probably not as important. With ChatGPT, it has access to the internet. You can just go ask it to go find the top 10 things ranking for X term. But things like people also ask questions you would want to pull originally and then upload into the prompt. Okay, validating. There's a couple tool options I recommend. This one actually is Moz. It's got a great keyword research database, and it is free for 10 queries a month. So you might as well try it out. What I love is it gives you the entire tool for 10 searches a month. So you can see the entire thing. So this is the first part. And then it gives you a page that looks a bit like this. The important part on this screen is one, it gives you like an average volume, but then it notice the click-through rate, only 64% click-through. Yeah, that's because there's all this other Google stuff, honestly, that usually distracts people from the click. Or if there's an AI overview or a feature snippet that provides the entire answer, right, in search, people aren't going to click. Important to keep an eye on, because if you optimize for this term, you're not going to get all of those clicks, right? So anyway, this is what Moz looks like on this screen. This is the next screen after that, where it will give you other additional suggestions in the volume, and then it lets you view the entire search results. Ahrefs also has a freebie tool. This one is not as robust, unfortunately, though I do like this tool if you're going to pay for it. But what I like most about this tool is it lets you flip to Bing, YouTube, and Amazon. Yeah, so different keyword databases. Okay, so after you've figured out that these are the terms I want to rank for, I know they have volume, then you need to think about how can you rank for this tool? This is where I'm going to take you over into ChatGPT. This is a custom GPT. And if I ask, can I rank for sustainable development goals? What it will actually do is analyze the entire top ranking pages in Google search and talk about whether or not they are up to date. What kind of things? This is important because if you're trying to rank with, say, like a service page for this, did you see that it says service page? No, the top ranking are informational and educational resources, not service pages. For some reason, this was a service thing I was offering. And then it tells you the likely search intent behind them and what the page should be, et cetera, et cetera. And then as we keep going, it tells you the personas that actually search for this term. And then you could actually upload your content and it will tell you whether or not you're targeting the search intent. Very cool tool. Okay, so then the final check before you actually pick the topic you should think about, is this keyword relevant to the content your website offers? Is Google showing content like yours? Because if it's only showing, .edus and international websites and your .gov, you might not rank there. Or say it's all news, then you might not actually be able to rank for it. .govs don't rank for everything, by the way. I should sort of start with that. I launched a .gov. You run off the same rules as everybody else when it comes to SEO. You don't have any magical .gov dust. So anyway, if you were thinking that, you don't. Will the searchers find their answer in the content you're creating? Is this traffic going to actually help your goals? Are you creating something better than what's currently ranking? That's actually a quote from John Mueller, which is Google's rep to SEOs. So think about that. Are you creating something as good as or better than what's already ranking? That's a key really to SEO, has been for about 10 years. And then I've got a search intent guide. So if all that search intent was still confusing to you, feel free to go grab the guide. Okay, now AI overviews. So I told you if you were looking, you should note if there's an AI overview. Caveat about the overviews. They change more frequently than rankings, and rankings almost change every hour. So the AI overviews are changing pretty quickly. But information-based websites are getting hit hard. I know because I work with them. And so it's something like 70% of the time an AI overview will trigger with information-based websites. It's also stupidly high in health, which really bothers me because they hallucinate. And I just feel like with health stuff, it should be accurate information. Anyway, side note, it concerns me. But anyway, if you have an AI overview, this is what you need to do. You need to have a content fragment, like a little small paragraph that clearly answers the query, that has the right math. It has to load quickly. Ideally, you should have a content strategy that covers various stages of the searcher's journey, because there are options, especially in Bing right now, where you can ask a follow-on question. The user can. Oftentimes, when you look to see what's ranking, it does pull through a lot of YouTube. It does pull through forums like Reddit and Quora. So keep an eye there, because you're not going to outrank those, but you can go over there and post your information. Super easy on Quora. You just create an account and answer the question. Hard on Reddit. You have to build up an account with equity and don't do blatant marketing things and etc. Wikipedia. If you want to drop me a note, I have a Wikipedia coach that has actually helped both associations and my federal clients update their Wikipedia pages. But you also have to know the rules, which is why you work with a coach, and tread lightly, because they also have their own rules and like to kick you out if you're doing something sketchy. Okay, I also have a downloadable about how to rank, and then another custom GPT. So this one is like, hey, can I rank for an AI overview? And what you do is you actually put the snippet in, and it will tell you, it asks you about the topic, and it will tell you if your math is close. So there's both that and then another tool that I'm going to show you. Okay, measuring the impact. AI overview tracking. Both SEMrush and Ahrefs, frankly, all the other ones, now say they measure it. ZipTie was the first on the market, and it's because they know they have some sort of magic mix about they were able to track logged in users, because AI overviews rolled out for logged in users first. That means you have your Gmail tab open. The other tools only track logged out, which means ZipTie tracks about 7 times more AI overviews than the other tools, which is why I recommend it. Unfortunately, it's another subscription, but it's relatively cheap. Web analytics. So anytime you see this kind of hashtag, comma, etc. text, that means that came in from an AI overview. And then Google Search Console and Big Webmaster Tools, unfortunately, those are not helpful. The data is there, but they don't let you segment it, so it's fully not actionable. Okay, and the reason we go through all of this is because it turns out 91% of content does not receive traffic from Google. It is getting harder to even get into the Google database, the index. So that's why we're going to talk about creating a writing plan and grouping the keywords. So grouping the keywords, I told you I would give you a couple tools. These first 2 are free, including a custom GPT. The second 2 are not free. There's plenty on the internet, but the reason that I picked these is they use NLP and a couple other acronyms related to how the search engines work. So if you're going to use any of them, I would use these. So after you've clustered it, so yeah, I've got 50 words and they can actually all go on the same page. Awesome. Let's create a content brief. So there is this one, which I'm not going to show you live how to do this, but there's a plugin. It's called the AI PRM plugin. You might find it useful anyway. What it is a company created all of these marketing prompts and saved them all in one place. It creates an overview, or like an overlay, over your ChatGPT account. So feel free to play around with it. Once you get in there, this briefing and outline creation for a copy assignment prompt, I think works really well. So you could try that. Or we've got a couple custom GPTs. So we've got this one from Rank Math, which is actually a SEO software. It's like a plugin for WordPress. Uses all of the NLP type stuff that I think you should be using. You can also in here prompt it to do cosine similarity. So it doesn't do it by default, but I have prompted it before and it does it accurately. The other one is this one, which is just for cosine similarity. So you put the URL or the copy in here and the topic, and it will tell you. You just go click to begin, and then it prompts you to walk through the process. Yeah. Okay. Now you're probably wondering, why am I even mentioning all this? This is because, one, Google does not have rules against AI content. In fact, what they've said is it has to be helpful content for the end user. I'll also walk through what the bar is right now for content for Google, because they raised it over the last couple of years. But generally, AI content is fine if it's good, and people actually like it better. This is a study from SEMrush if you want to go take a look at it. And it tends to rank a little better. Crazy, huh? Okay, so, but it all depends on whether or not you're creating stuff that's helpful. And this is because Google had this update starting in 23. It's now part of, it's like the fall of 23. It's now part of the regular algorithm. And it's all about creating helpful, people-first content. They added an additional E to their content quality guide. So your content needs to have experience, the person writing it, you have to have a bio, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Authority is generally website related, and so is trust. But the first two have everything to do with the actual person who wrote it. So if you're still writing and not providing a bio for the person that wrote it, stop it. You should create a bio. And then they had this update called the Hidden Gems update, same fall. And this was all about, frankly, putting more social in search, which is why you see Reddit and the forums and the Q&A and the study.com and all that stuff. That's Google trying to put first person experience into search. So that's the bar. And if they find that a proportion of your content is unhelpful, they could potentially tank your entire website. So it's kind of important. And the quality content has to do with EAT. It has to do with having a person with a bio that has the experience and the expertise. It also has to do with good UX. This is the first time content and UX have been shoved together in the same algorithm update. That means speed. That means no crazy pop-ups. That means make it clearer for somebody so they can complete their action. Keep in mind, Google is watching everything they do in Chrome, right? Okay, and then content has to be written for a purpose. So Google has these human beings that provide feedback to the algorithm called human raters. So does Bing. And one of the questions that they have to ask of themselves when they're looking at a query and some URLs is, what is the purpose of this page? So you should be thinking, what is the purpose of this page when you write it? You should also read the guide for these human raters. It's available online. And if you're writing content online, you should read the entire guide, because they have said the guide doesn't directly impact ranking immediately, but it's where they want the algorithm to go, right? So it's like their optimistic focus of what Google should be. So read it. If you're wondering whether or not your content is helpful, I have another custom GPT. So this one, you put your site content in and it's going to tell you whether it's meeting helpfulness. And if not, how to improve it. Very helpful. All right. Now we're going to be talking about improving clicks from search, because I just talked about how Google watches it and how it can improve your rankings. Now, generally, I was actually in a webinar where this happened. Rand Fishkin was on with Mike King and a couple other people, and then decided, because they had 300 people on the webinar, to see if they could inflate the rankings of a particular restaurant that Rand likes in Seattle, Washington. So they all prompted us to Google a specific thing and click on the restaurant listing. And seriously, it moved right up the rankings. Now, usually it's temporary. I have seen this in my career, where if you create the right surge of interest in a thing, you get this wonderful snowball where you get top rankings for a while until people stop being interested in it organically, and then it will settle down. But it's a thing. You can actually inflate your rankings by getting great clicks. And then regardless, you're going to want clicks from search, right? Otherwise, what are you doing? You want people to click on your stuff when they see it in search. So the clickable pieces, the first one is the meta title. It's also a ranking factor. We know that from the algorithm leak. Most websites that are top ranking have optimized the title and put their target keyword in it. This is because humans, we move very fast in search. We spend seconds. And so if we see the word that we were searching, we click fast on it. It's just sort of a human thing. So you should be optimizing the titles. Just a little bit about title tags. Written for a human, encourage the click. You only have about 60, 65 characters. Google can truncate it. So Google actually says it can be as long as it wants, but on mobile phones, it gets shorter and stuff gets dropped on the right. So stick the keyword on the left. There's a couple ways you can increase the amount of clicks. I also have some prompts for you. Also, just to know, Google will tinker with these. Google can write your title tag for you using the NLP actually that we talked about. They can also write the meta description for you. And so when they generate the title, they will pull it from the title element, main headers on the page, other headers, anything that's prominently displayed on the page, anchor text to the page internally and to the page externally. So if you start seeing that Google's tinkering with your titles and you don't like that and you want to get back to the title you had, these are all the things you have to test in order to get your title tag the one you want, not the one Google wrote for you. Also, if you want to make sure that, because 61% of the time the titles are rewritten, and if you want to make sure they're not, you need to do things like keep within the character count, match it to your H1, which is, by the way, a requirement for Google News anyway. Don't break it with a pipe or slash. Use the soft brackets, the hard ones, put your keyword in it. And this is a note, and this is why I talk about reviewing what LLMs come out with. They tend to rewrite it if there's a lot of pipes. LLMs love to put pipes in things, and they're not as accurate as, or not as helpful from an SEO perspective as the slash. So just keep an eye on that when the LLMs create something. So here's your title tag prompt. It has 6 pieces to it. And that's also because I'm trying to get you to add your brand voice in there so the AI can replicate your brand voice. Just a side note about brand voice. I was working on creating social media copy for a client, and he was the one who created all the copy. It's like a small business, all the copy for the website and social. So every time I'd ship something over, he'd have 1,000 edits. It was driving me crazy. So finally I decided, what if I use LLM and train it on this dude's voice, have it rewrite my copy in his voice? Yeah, that totally worked. The last thing I shipped over, there were no edits. So it works really well. They can mimic your voice, definitely. Okay, meta descriptions. These are not clickable elements, but basically they're your free add-in search. They should be a summary of your page, but don't give away everything. You want to get the click. It's like a little tease, right? Google might use them. Again, Google can rewrite them. Oftentimes you put them inside the CMS. So this is the Google quote about meta descriptions. The biggest piece is unique value proposition, encouraging people to click through. So this is a place where you can actually present your brand in search for sure. If you're going to make an engaging meta description, make sure you've got the reader's problem in there. You've got your business solution and evoke some emotion. Those are the big keys. And make sure it has your brand voice, keyword far to the left. You only have 160 characters. And it's not a ranking factor, but it is a click-through rate factor. Here's your prompt that you could use. Again, multi-step prompt. Other custom GPTs that I've just collected that I thought would be interesting for you. So the first one is snippet brain. So if you see a featured snippet, there's a particular way to write to knock the person out of that featured snippet so that you can rank instead. You already have to be top 10 ranking. But if there's a featured snippet appearing and you're number 4, go ahead and use snippet brain, see if you can improve your content, get into the featured snippet. This one's kind of crazy. I believe it actually lets you edit and create videos for free. I've got 2 different ones in relation to alt text. This one is not a custom GPT, but it uses Google's computer vision. So you upload an image and it writes the alt text for you. Kind of amazing. And then optimizing images. That custom GPT actually can compress, resize your image, do everything. So that's ready for the web. Okay, finally, we're at Drupal. So let's talk about Drupal AI to speed up your SEO workflows. Of course, this launched yesterday. It's much more user-friendly. I know they made it for me as a marketer. I'm in love. I definitely like it. The module, the AI module, works with a wide variety of providers. And what you need to do is pick which provider you want. I believe you can pivot it per module too. There's a ton of functionality. I'm not going to go through all of them. I've given you a full list there though. But you can do things like images and create copy and do summaries and translate and that kind of stuff. So the modules I like that I think you should use, alt text, definitely. It's so much faster to have a computer generate a descriptive thing of alt text and then you review it. The key with alt text is that you should envision, like, if somebody was reading it to you out loud because you're blind and you cannot see the image, how would you describe it, right? That's the gold standard. As an SEO, I'm also going to tell you if you can put the keyword in there, that's amazing too. But anyway, use the alt text. It's also multilingual. Reducing your reading level. Because this is tragic, because I'm a big reader, but half of Americans read below a 6th grade level. 1 in 5 only read at a 3rd grade level, which is shocking to me. But important that you write to the reading level of your target audience. Everybody on here is, I'm assuming, trying to appear for most of the American public. So it's probably more of a lower reading level than you expected. If you're not sure the reading level of your target audience for your thing, I have a prompt for you. This is obviously because of my associations, but I said, can you look at the top 10 results for this topic, biofilm, and tell me what the average reading level is for each of those results? That's kind of like a cheat. The better way of doing it is there's a tool called SparkToro. It's freemium, so you get, I think it's 10 searches a month, and then you have to start paying. But when you put your website in, it will actually tell you based on your target audience, what is the educational background of people heading your website. Golden, great information. Okay, so if you're inside Drupal, you go to the AI content suggestions, and then under choose your own vocabularies where you can set reading level. Translate. I wouldn't recommend this without human review because they can make crap up. Also, you can see that sometimes auto translation just goes haywire. And then it absolutely misses cultural nuances every single time. Also, it's not enough to rank internationally. I've gotten you the full requirements here for what it requires from an SEO perspective to rank internationally. I mean, language is a big part of it, but there's some other stuff too. Yeah, if you want to use it as a draft and then vet it with a real speaker, cool. But I wouldn't necessarily just draft something and put it on the internet because, again, they make crap up. Ensuring consistent brand voice. Why do I talk about this so much? One, it is so important that you have a unique brand value visible in search. You have a very small amount of time to grab somebody's attention and get them to click on you. Also, from the algorithm leak, we know that Google measures your brand value. And if you don't meet a certain bar, you don't get certain SERP features, which is new to everybody in the industry, like as of a month ago. And they measure that by people using topic in your brand when they search, like shoes and Nike together. Also anchor links or anchor text from outside websites to you with your name on it. It's those two features that they measure in relation to your brand value. Also, when you document your brand voice, you can make sure that everybody who is using it, even if it's different employees on different handles, they all sound the same. So you have a consistent voice to your end user. And that way your employees and your customers can articulate what you're about. Marketing and sales are on the same page. If you're going to document your brand voice, it kind of looks like this. There's a brand promise, brand positioning, and personality and voice. And you can kind of see Nike's. I've worked with people to help them document this, particularly with social media. So this is actually a graph that we created for a social media team to try to make sure that the multiple people that were on the handles knew how to talk in the brand voice. Yeah, so that's how you can actually kind of codify it. If you're going to use this insight, once you've figured it out, you should definitely make it a default across your entire CMS platform. And you can do that in your configuration, the AI content settings. There's like an enable tone. You can put your unique tone there. And then suddenly, boom, everybody's on the same page and sounding the same, at least on your CMS. Transforming files. I thought this was awesome. So this submodule will let you flip text to PDF, doc to PDF, email to HTML, etc. Makes it easier to discover. You could easily take an Excel sheet, create it into an HTML table. PDFs could be to HTML because PDFs, if a user goes from search to a PDF, you don't measure it in analytics because no JavaScript triggers. So HTML is better for tracking. You can extract images from PDFs or label charts and graphs automatically with AI. The bummer with a lot of these is that if it's not your default like OpenAI API key that you're using across the board, is a little bit of extra money every time. So just keep that in mind. The more of these things you turn on with different partners, the more the cost might go up, particularly this one. So it's like 14 days free and then a certain amount. But then if you want to use handwritten stuff, it's even more expensive. So you're looking at a bill. AI SEO Analyzer. Just before you ask me about this one, I would not recommend this one. I looked at the prompt and I was like, okay. So they mention a keyword tag tool, which by the way, has not been used by search engines in 10, 15 years, except for Baidu. How many of us are really targeting Baidu? By the way, if you want to target Baidu, you need to have a Chinese rep in China and be hosted in China and a whole bunch of other stuff. Most people are not doing it. Anyway, it also uses this topical authority, but it's not measuring topical authority based on how we now know Google measures it based on the leak. It also has this thing about like evaluating external links, but you never upload the links for the AI to even see. And LLMs aren't magical. They only have what you give it. So I don't know how it's evaluating external anything. I ran it on my own site and it was mostly useless. So anyway, the Drupal community has asked me to improve this prompt. I think I can improve parts of it, but I think it's asking an LLM to do something it's just not even very good at. AI work, I'm going to walk through the things that I don't think you should use just because they seem weird to put in the CMS. You can do it outside, okay? podcast software. Also, this is another one where they start asking you for extra money. So I run a podcast. I'm a host of one. It's called the Digital Marketing Victories Show. We talk about soft skills. And my podcast software can actually fix the audio, like inside in my podcast software. It also helps me with show notes. Most of them do now, with AI, of course, but they generate show notes and they generate chapters for audio and video and all this other kind of stuff. Zoom can do a lot of this by default now. I have Fathom FM I invite. It can do some of this. That's for free because I use it as just one person. Anyway, I just think that you could do some of this podcast stuff. It's super important to do this, don't get me wrong, but I think you could do it outside the CMS, and putting it inside the CMS just doesn't make sense to me. AI images. Okay, 1, you don't own the copyright. 2, it's actually really hard to prompt well with AI images, to be honest. So again, I would not stick it inside the CMS, because often what happens is when I do an AI image, I flip AI software frequently to get the better image. Sometimes Gemini's amazing. Sometimes they need to go over here and use Poe, and sometimes whatever. Sometimes it was Bing that was doing a better job. And inside the CMS, you have to pick one. And then you have to have a lot more training. So if you're a photographer, you're going to be great at AI prompting, because you can put all the photographer type settings in there and AI is going to generate something beautiful. If you're not a photographer, you don't know all those settings, and your prompts they're just going to generate stuff that's a bit subpar. Additionally, look at this image. AI still has trouble with fingers and toes, and it still has trouble with bicycle wheels. And it turns out because it's trained on the internet, every watch on the internet, every picture of one is at 10 o'clock. And so if you ask it to prompt a 4 o'clock watch, it can't. So anyway, I think this should be outside your CMS. I'm not saying don't do it, just keep it outside your CMS. There's also a module that talks about web scraping. And honestly, I crowdsource this with my other SEO friends, because what is the value of doing this? It is against Google's terms of service. It will get you tanked. Don't do it. I don't understand the value. If you were to scrape somebody else's copywritten content and attempt to make it your own, that's spam. So I don't know why it's in there. Don't do it. Okay. And then the other things to keep in mind, if you switch LLMs, like you were really excited about ChatGPT, but then you realize Copilot's better, you have to actually adjust underneath each module as you go. So there's a bunch of places you'd have to adjust it. I was going to say these modules might go away with the new CMS. I barely played with the new CMS since it launched yesterday. So some of them are definitely there. I'd have to check about all of them. Most of the ones I showed today are actually there, except for the transform. I'm not sure about that one. And the default prompts sometimes have issues, but you can replace them. It's like a text box. So you could rip it out and put a new one in. And then most of these, it's like a little bit of change, all monthly subscriptions. So be aware of that one. And then I'm just about done. I'm just going to give you additional resources, stuff for you to download all for free. And now I can take questions and a checklist. Going to give you your SEO checklist at the end.
Hey, so I'm going to start because one of the questions was asked at the beginning of your presentation. So
hopefully it was not you're talking too fast and you should slow down. Go ahead.
It says for number 3, is this a list of keywords? In this SEO content process slide, number 3.
SEO, let me go back.
And
this one.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Yeah.
This one?
MLRI website project. Is that the slide?
Hi, yes, this is the slide.
Okay.
I think I got my question answered, but I just wanted to be sure you were saying to do the keyword list first.
Yes. You figure out who you're talking to, you start brainstorming a big list, then you reduce the list based on search intent, whether or not you can rank. Yeah. And then you cluster the keywords and create a writing plan, map it to URLs, create a writing plan in that order. And then if you're using LLMs to brainstorm, take those keywords and stick them in a keyword tool and make sure they have volume before you use them.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
The second question, must bios, expertise, experience be for an individual, or can it be an authoritative entity?
I know you guys were going to ask me that. It's got to be an individual. So it turns out that in the ranking algorithm, there's actually factors related to the author. So since all of you are probably here in DC, if you haven't gone to the Planet Word Museum, I highly recommend because it's just a cool museum. But it also has an exhibit about algorithms that's directly related to this. So it talked about how it took the entire corpus of the author who wrote Harry Potter and was able to find a unique fingerprint in her writing and was able to tell that her pen name was the same as her using computer algorithms. It doesn't say Google, but I'm like, dude, if one algorithm can figure it out, Google's figured it out. I've been telling people this for years. I think Google can figure out that it's you based on your unique way of writing, similar to your fingerprint. So Surface, who is writing for it. Also, you can do even more stuff. So if you actually have somebody that's an absolute expert in their field, there's this thing called schema.org markup, right? Which is stuff that the computers understand. All the search engines got together, decided to label nouns and entities and the things related to them with actual particular words they understand. So underneath the bio, you can say that this person is attached to this organization and got a degree from here, as well as from here, and works for this person. And you're sort of connecting that person to the knowledge graph in Google, which is Google's work to build a human brain, but online out of computer stuff, if that makes sense. So yes, it's not it's both. You guys are authoritative already because of the entity, but it's also the author, especially when this most recent update 2 years ago.
I believe that was all of the questions. Does anyone else have any questions? This talk was chock full of just a lot of information, good information. You sure? Anybody?
Everyone is just like head full. Like, if you've ever gone to a training of mine, there's too much stuff to get you from no SEO knowledge to where Google is in 2025, except by having you grab water from the fire hose kind of thing. So unfortunately,
someone said they're still processing and
exactly.
They're wondering how they can contact you.
Oh yeah. I don't think I dropped it at the end. So my email is, my handle's right there. I'm still on Twitter, even though it's not Twitter anymore. It's very sad. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'll drop my final slide at the end. You can find me on LinkedIn, and my website is WO Strategies.com. I'm on Blue Sky too. Same handle, actually.
Awesome. This was a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sharing your knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope to see everybody next month.
Great. Thanks, folks.